Okay, let's dive right in. We're looking today at Leviticus chapter 7. And our aim really is to unpack the surprising level of detail in these ancient regulations. We're talking offerings, food handling, cleanness.
It's incredibly specific, isn't it? Almost like a technical manual for rituals. Not just broad strokes, but the real nitty-gritty.
Exactly, like who eats what, where, even when, down to the hour sometimes.
Precisely. It shows how much weight these actions carried.
So let's start with one of the offerings mentioned, the guilt offering. The text calls it most holy. What does that signal?
Well, most holy tells you straight away it's in a special category, highest sanctity.
Okay.
So for the guilt offering, that meant, for instance, it had to be slaughtered in a very specific place.
Which was?
The same place they slaughtered the burnt offering. And the blood handling was key too, not just poured out, but intentionally sprinkled against all sides of the altar. A real ritual act.
And the animal itself, what parts were actually part of the offering by fire?
It focuses heavily on the fat. That was entirely for the altar, offered by fire. The text is really specific here. The fat tail, all the fat covering the inner organs, both kidneys plus the fat around them near the loins, and even the lobe of the liver removed with the kidneys.
Wow. That's detailed. Burning all that fat suggests it was seen as the prime part.
That's generally the understanding, yes. The richest part, given over completely.
Okay, so the fat's for the altar. What about the rest of the meat? Who gets that?
Because it's most holy, it was very restricted. Only males from a priest's family could eat it.
Only the men.
Yes. And not just anywhere, it had to be eaten in a holy place, reinforcing that sacred boundary around it.
Got it. Now, the text links the sin offering and the guilt offering. Something about the priest's share.
Right, there's a parallel rule for those two. It basically says the meat from both the sin offering and the guilt offering belongs to the specific priest who actually performs the atonement ritual with it.
Ah, so it's tied to the action of atonement.
Exactly. His role in that mediation entitles him to that specific, very sacred portion.
And the burnt offering, is there a priestly share there too?
There is, but it's different. For the burnt offering, which was mostly consumed by fire on the altar, the priest who offered it got to keep the animal's hide.
Just the hide.
Just the hide. It makes sense in context less sacred than the meat of the most holy offerings because the main part of the sacrifice went up in smoke.
Okay, moving to grain offerings. Seems like the rules shift depending on how it's prepared.
That's right. There's a clear distinction. If a grain offering was baked, say, in an oven, or cooked in a pan or on a griddle, then that specific offering belonged entirely to the priest who presented it, his individual share.
But not all grain offerings.
No. If it was just grain mixed with oil or even dry flour brought as an offering, that was treated differently. Those were divided equally among all the priests, all the sons of Aaron. Kind of a general provision for the whole priestly line from the more basic grain contributions.
Interesting distinction. Okay, now for the fellowship offering. This seems even more complex, varying based on the reason for the offering.
Yes, exactly. The why matters a lot here. Let's take the thank offering first. If your fellowship offering was specifically for Thanksgiving, it came with a whole entourage of baked goods. You had to bring unleavened cakes mixed with oil, unleavened wafers spread with oil, and cakes made of fine flour that were also thoroughly mixed with oil.
Right. Unleavened, oil-enriched. Seems typical.
It does, but then there's a curveball. Alongside all those unleavened items, you also had to bring cakes of bread made with yeast.
Yeast?
Yeah.
Really? I thought leaven was usually a no-go in offerings.
Generally, yes, but not here, not with the thank offering component. It's quite specific.
So what happens with all these different breads and cakes?
You take one of each type, one unleavened cake, one wafer, one fine flour cake, and one leavened cake, and present that assortment as a special contribution, a teruma, to the Lord.
And who gets that contribution?
It belongs to the priest who sprinkles the blood of that fellowship offering. It's part of his compensation for officiating.
And the actual meat from the thank offering? There's a time limit, isn't there?
A very strict one. It had to be eaten completely on the same day it was offered. No leftovers until morning. Absolutely none.
Wow. Why so strict?
It perhaps emphasizes the immediacy of Thanksgiving, you know? A spontaneous expression of gratitude, fully enjoyed and consumed right then and there, no delay.
Okay, but that changes if the fellowship offering is for a vow or just a free will offering.
Yes, a bit more leeway there. The main rule is still to eat it on the day it's offered. But if there's anything left over, you can eat it the next day, the second day.
Ah, okay, so 2 days max.
Exactly 2 days, because there's a hard stop. Any meat left until the third day is forbidden. It absolutely must be burned up.
And if someone eats it on day 3?
The consequences are severe. The text says the offering won't be accepted. It's considered pigol, an offensive, detestable thing, and the person eating it bears the guilt and, crucially, must be cut off from his people.
That phrase again, cut off from his people. We see it pop up a lot. What does that actually mean in practice?
It's the ultimate penalty in this context, short of death. It implies total exclusion from the covenant community socially, religiously. You lose your identity, your place among the people.
So applying it to eating leftovers too late.
Or eating while ritually unclean, yeah. It just hammers home how seriously these rules were taken. It wasn't a minor slip-up. It was seen as a fundamental violation that ruptured your connection to the community and to God.
Let's talk about the priest's specific portions from the fellowship offering. The person bringing it has a hands-on role.
They do, yeah. The offerer themselves brings the designated parts forward. They bring the fat destined for the altar fire, as usual, and they also bring the breast of the animal.
And the breast undergoes a special procedure.
Yes, it's waved. Presented before the Lord in a specific ritual motion, the wave offering, and that waved breast belongs collectively to Aaron and his sons, the priesthood in general.
Okay, so the breast is for the priestly collective. Is there another part?
Yes, the right thigh. That's given as a contribution, a heave offering or presentation offering, specifically to the priest who officiates that particular sacrifice, the one handling the blood and the fat.
So that priest gets the thigh as his personal share.
Exactly, his specific portion for his service. The text spells it out. The waved breast and the presented thigh are the established, regular share for Aaron and his sons from the Israelites' fellowship offerings. It's how the priests and their families were sustained.
Makes sense. Now, beyond the offerings themselves, there are these broader rules about diet and cleanness tied to eating the meat.
Oh, absolutely. Purity is a constant theme. For instance, if any meat from an offering touches something ritually unclean, that meat becomes defiled.
And you can't eat it.
No, definitely not. It has to be burned. And on the flip side, only a person who is themselves ceremonially clean is allowed to eat any of the offering meat.
And if someone breaks these cleanness rules, eating while unclean.
Same severe penalty. If you're unclean and you eat the fellowship offering meat which belongs to the Lord, you get cut off from your people. Wow.
And it applies even if you just touch something unclean, human uncleanness, an unclean animal carcass, any kind of detestable unclean thing, and then you eat the sacred meat. That contact contaminates the sacred act. Cut off.
Serious stuff. Are there also parts of the animal you just can't eat at all, regardless of the offering context or cleanness?
Yes. Fat is a big one, a direct command. Do not eat any fat from cattle, sheep, or goats.
Even if it wasn't part of an offering?
Seems so. It mentions fat from animals found dead or torn by beasts. You might use it for other things, maybe fuel or waterproofing, but you absolutely must not eat it.
And the penalty for eating fat from an offering-type animal?
Again, cut off from his people, it's treated as a major violation.
And blood.
Even stricter, if possible. An absolute universal prohibition. Wherever you live, do not eat the blood of any bird or animal.
No exception.
None mentioned. And the consequence is the same. Anyone who eats blood must be cut off. Blood was clearly seen as representing life itself, something uniquely reserved, likely for atonement purposes on the altar, not for consumption. So putting this all together, where does the text say these incredibly specific rules originated?
It grounds them right at the beginning, at Mount Sinai. It explicitly states these regulations covering all the offerings: burnt, grain, sin, guilt. The ordination offering and the fellowship offering were given by the Lord directly to Moses on the mountain.
And specifically timed.
Yes, it says they were given on the very day God commanded the Israelites out there in the Sinai desert to start bringing these offerings. And the parts for the priests, their shares, like the breast and thigh, those were specifically commanded on the day Aaron and his sons were anointed, setting up their portions as a permanent, ongoing statute for all future generations.
So the picture presented is not one of rules evolving over time, but a complete system handed down right at the start of their formal worship and priesthood.
Exactly. It's framed as foundational, divinely ordained law, right from the establishment of the covenant structure.
Okay, reflecting on all this, Leviticus 7 is just packed with detail. It's quite astonishing, really. The specific animal parts, who eats, where they eat, those tight deadlines for leftovers, especially the difference between thank and vow offerings.
And the absolute lines drawn around fat and blood and ritual cleanness.
It forces you to really think about the mindset behind it all, the intense focus required for these rituals.
Definitely. Every detail seems deliberate.
So, building on that, here's something for you, the listener, to consider based on this text. What does this sheer level of specificity, if they do? The eating windows, the clean and clean distinctions, the focus on particular body parts, the severity of the penalties, tell us about how intensely sacred these offerings were perceived to be, and maybe about the perceived danger or power involved in interacting with the divine through these very precise ritual acts.